Hmm. Hmm. Okay, I think I've got it. Yes, I think I've got it. It's working much faster. Okay. A very, very pleasant night to you once again. I think we had a disruption and we're trying to get that solved. We were trying a pretty much couple of nights to get that disruption solved. So we kind of get it solved because I think I see the comment section is being light up. It's been lit up. Yes, of course. So before I start, I want you to tell your friends that are no longer getting the Gavin Matthews show. You either send them the uh, the information so they can come in right now, or you tell them, look, go to Facebook, type in the Gavin Matthews show, and I'll pop right up. Right, you see the show will pop up. Follow me again so they can get the notifications because what is happening constantly, the information system that the de facto regime has set up is that it keeps bouncing off all those who gets the notifications from the Gavin Matthews show, right? So you know who would have the notification, you will have to follow me back again because they keep on following you. They got certain criteria how they get into the account through Facebook because Facebook in itself doesn't do anything. Facebook allows everyone to have that freedom. But what Facebook does, they give permission from every government of a de facto regime or uh, or corporation, as a matter of fact, that right to monitor what comes in and what goes out via way of a live stream, either through Facebook. I don't get that problem through YouTube, right? But I get it normally through Facebook because majority of the persons that are on Facebook. Hold on. Okay, yes. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to carry on as I do tonight. You can call in, or I can take whatever you write on the comment section, and I'll be able to you know highlight what you're saying. To some of you, I think you're now getting back your notification, but it's okay. Share the live stream, share the live, send it to others, continue to share the live so they can get it. So I want to talk about what is happening now with myself and the Corporation of Guyana. And you'll get to comprehend the reason why I am being blocked. I didn't want to, but I need to because somehow or the other, there are going to be extensive actions upon not only blocking me from the social media, but physically trying to destabilize the show of what I do. To those who are now joining via the live stream, GMS Live Radio Guyana, the online radio, a pleasant good night to you all. Islam, Islam, Islam. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey. It's coming out of you, coming out live to you from the Corporation of Guyana or the Southwest Amexia. To my brothers and sisters who are in Barbados, a very pleasant good evening to you. To the Moors who are over there, I would really like for you to pay attention to what is going on here on this program because miscommunication and misconception are very, very different things. But I would like for you to comprehend what is going on. Now, for the past 2 months, I've been having conversations on this show where it's been deliberated about what is it that we do as Aboriginals or as Moors. It's not all being deliberated, but some persons are getting the information, but they don't like the fact of what is being said. It's okay. I fully comprehend. Some people don't like the facts, but I fully comprehend. System in the Corporation of Guyana. And the problems that I'm getting is that the de facto regime of the Corporation of Guyana is finding it hard to deal with me pertaining to businesses because of my proclamation. That proclamation is basically stating directly I'm Aboriginal, I'm Indigenous, I'm a Moorish American or American state citizen. And now why the difference of Moors is because I align myself to that Aboriginal Indigenous group. That group are known around the world of enforcing the Constitution in systems that have come into the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1777. That means we don't fight our battles with physical abuse. We fight our battles with the pen because we realize the pen is mightier than the sword. And if we challenge the system for what it is, we get results because it is a fact, it is law. So the thing is that the system now is being challenged. And because the system is challenged, we're having the opportunity to know, well, look, we need the system to comprehend that at the end of the day, we stand with the Constitution, not the Constitution to corporation. We stand with the Constitution of our forefathers, lineage, our ancestors. Before the system was created, there was a constitution. That constitution was written in Arabic. The national language was Arabic. And that was the treaty that they would have developed through that constitutional system. Now, what happened after that? They came with English language. Now, in English language, which was they created, was made up of 4 or then 5 different languages. We had French, Dutch, Spanish, Greek, Latin. French, Dutch, Spanish, Greek, Latin. That's what actually the English language is made up of. So every word that we comprehend derives from a language and what it means. Now, the problem is that if you take or you create a language out of a different language, out of the origination of that particular word that you take out from that language. Like I'm going to use this one. Like for instance, I want to use the word obia. I want to use that word obia. Obia is a Swahilian word. It came from the Swahilian language. It means obey the laws of nature. Now, the word obey derived from the word obia. In other words, the etymology of the word obey was created from the word obia. Now, in this day and age, you got one word. We're trying to create 2 different meanings. That's the problem. Because if you're trying to create a different meaning to the word obia, then the derivative in which it's derived from needs to stand with it. You cannot separate the word. That's what they're doing. They're trying to separate the word, but the word is law. So a lot of us fail to realize that when we start speaking, whatever word comes out of our mouth, that becomes law. The individual, which is a living soul, is the constitution. So that's the problem. That is the problem with them and us, because we now realize that it's the same system that they have us living, that you call the color of law. They generalize everything. They give it a color because they realize now that to bring the derivative of the word, they would lose every case, like the word black. Now, to this dispensation of people, the minute you hear the word black, you feel that it's a representation of you. But here was the problem. Black, it is a name of a color, not a person. So it becomes an adjective. So as an adjective, which is the word black, you can give that color to anything. Sorry, to any object. You can give that color, the word black, to any object. Now, if the word black to the object represents the object, when it becomes a commerce, a piece of object becomes part of a commerce. So it can be sold, it can be bought, it can be traded upon. So when you accept yourself as black, that means you're constantly being sold and traded, and you don't know. Because that is the derivative, that's the derivation of the word. They don't want you to know that, because they know that if you get to know that now, then you wouldn't identify yourself as a black man. But we say that we're black, but consciously we do not understand the word black, or we do not comprehend the word black. It becomes a color of law, and we now become confused by that because of how we're being taught. So the fact is that this is the constant fight with them and us, because we comprehend these words that are now law. So when we go before their court system, which is lesser than us, because now their court system becomes an Article 4 court, right? Yes, there are Article 4 courts and Article 4 judges, and we become an Article 3 court with Article 3 judges. So here was the problem. Because they are corporate citizens, it is hard for them to adjudicate over us who are American state citizens. They are corporate state citizens. And when I say corporate, I mean corporate. Corporate means the name of that corporation, like Guyana, like the US, Colombia, Venezuela, Barbados, Brazil. All these so-called countries, either independent or not, they are still part of the corporation. So adjudication of an indigenous aboriginal person becomes null and void. So that's the thing with them. Now they're trying to create a case where they say that we're troublemakers. No, we're not. We're just indicating to them that we cannot become part of a corporation. We will not stand as part of that corporate entity. And we will stand independent of the corporation. So that's their problem. And when you stand independent of the corporation, you can now adjudicate over that corporation because you are the original indigenous person. They now are answerable to you, not in a violent manner, but a peaceful and friendship manner. To create peace, friendship, and love, and justice. That's how you now adjudicate over them, because it's according to the treaty. You have to develop the peace, the positiveness first before you enter into the treaty. What they did, they comprehend the treaty, but they violated the treaty by taking away the rights of the people of the treaty. So what they did, they create acts, codes, conducts, statutes to the corporation. And that acts, codes, standards, acts, codes, conducts, and statutes goes now to the law. On to you call English language, which is their law. But hold on. A blessed good evening to you. Thank you very much for calling the Dr. Matthews-Bey show. Good night to you.
Good night, Captain. This is the old lady with the doctor with the car. Why didn't call back? Because the doctor, let me tell you, this is a epileptic case. Some most that we don't feel good, right? So it's me and she and
Okay. Okay. Yes, I get your point.
So there's a reason. So you get some personal thing that. So you know.
Yes, you can call me back because I'm in the air presently.
Yeah, because I want this here. Some things I see with what the airways have you bring some things there just now.
Okay. Yes.
And it really set me back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry how with that and coming to you as
okay. Okay. Yes. Yes, I know. I know. I recognize the voice. I recognize the voice. Okay. Well, then you know what I'll do after the show, I'll give you a buzz, and then we can arrange a time when I can call you back during the day, and we can have this discussion. Right?
Okay then.
Okay. Well, then thank you very much for calling. Mhm.
Yes, sir. And thank you for doing this work and telling us.
Yes.
You very much. Have a pleasant night.
You too. Yeah. Thank you very much for calling. Stay safe and be careful. Yes. So the thing is now that the system realized that I can challenge them because they now have no authority. Here, why the system has no authority. Article 1514 of the United Nations Convention in 1960 issued that every colonial powers and corporations thereof of those colonial powers have been null and void. It's disbanded. That is why you have so many countries are seeking independence. But the problem is, although they're seeking independence, they're still holding on to the acts, codes, conducts, and statutes of those corporations. So they now become corporations under the noble of the we call noble acts, which is like Guyana, who is the Commonwealth, is still attached to the British because they fall under the Commonwealth. They went to not Uganda. They went to, oh brother, I'm trying to remember the country's name that Air Fraud went to the other day in Africa there to attend the Commonwealth Conference. Rwanda. These countries, although they are independent, they are still corporations that falls under the Commonwealth, which is controlled by the British. That means their constitutions are still guided by the Commonwealth of countries under the throne of England. They're still guided. And the reason why they're guided in that way, because although you seek independence, you still got to go according to what they say. If you don't go according to what they say, well, then you'll be a poor country. They make sure that nothing comes to your country so that you're still part of a corporation. That corporation goes back to the colonial powers. For us, we are independent who are Aboriginal indigenous persons. We are not subject to the corporations of corps. We are subject to ourselves. So we say to you that, like I say to them, I am Alodius. I'm a living soul. I'm not subject to you. That's the problem they're having with me. Because not only that, I stand to my proclamation. I make sure that I live by it. I don't want anything to do with the corporation. I'm outside. Now they don't want anything to do with me. First time they used to run behind me for lock me up. Now they're running away from me. That's the problem I'm having. Because I want to get certain things done now since that I'm independent and outside of the corporation. Nobody wants to deal with me. And they have things that belongs to me that they have to resend, that I have to retrieve. I have to retrieve my taxes, my national insurance. Then I got cases before the courts, the Article 4 courts that has no jurisdiction of adjudication over me. So that's the problem. So now, my writing now becomes law because for everything that I do right now, it's an adjudication because I'm an Article 3 judge. If you comprehend those who are looking, I know it's a little tedious for you, but now it's all about reading, writing, and comprehension. And when you comprehend what I'm saying now, then adjudication is very easy because you can sit down now and adjudicate. But the difference of adjudication, it must be according to a jurisdiction justorial fact. That means you don't want to do things that are going to put you more into trouble. You do things that they have to answer to you for because they owe you. Hold on. You have to hit them hard. You have to challenge the system. You cannot stay asleep. The system now realized that I was in shackle and I loosed the shackles off. So they don't want me to teach the people how to release themselves from this shackle. The color of law, people, to my Aboriginal brothers and sisters, is what has you in shackle. The color of law. I sorry I don't have the book here with me because I would be very much happy to show them the book. But the color of law is what have you in shackles. And they don't want Oh yes, I'm back. It looks that way. Am I? Yes, it looks that I'm back. Looks like I am back on here. The thing is that, brothers and sisters, I cannot stop teaching the truth. I will not stop teaching the truth. The truth has to come out. The information that I'm giving to you here, brothers and sisters, is what the Brotherhood of Freemasons sit down and discuss in the lodges to keep you ignorant of the fact. The more ignorant you become, it is the more the facts stay away from you, so you cannot see the vision. And who's in control of all these things? You check. All the persons that are high ranking within the government, the chiefs of staffs, the police force, the heads of state, deputy head of state, ministers, majority of them are in this particular lodge environment, which we call the lodge. Some people call them the Illuminati, some people call them Freemasons. It is a fact. I'm telling you this. It is a fact. I'm a living example of it. So I'm being able to tell you. And becoming a Moor is becoming to have this information close to you. But in order for you to be where I am, you have to move beyond the 33rd degree. Like in the Freemasons, the 33rd degree would be said to the public that they're the highest. No, it's 360 degrees. It tells you that you're a human. You're a whole person. That's me. I'm a Lodiel. So you cannot call me a human being. I'm a living soul. I've moved beyond the color of law. I got to teach my people the truth. They cannot be blinded all the time. I mean, some of them want to stay blind. Some of them just want to wake up. It's okay. It's very much okay. But I cannot stop. I'm driven by passion for the truth all the time. I am a living example of it. How can I turn back? I've been locked up. I've been kidnapped. I've been locked up. I've been harassed. I have lived and I'm still living that life. I have walked and I'm still walking that life. I am talking and I'm still talking that life. I'm now a living example of it. So what I am teaching you, I'm not teaching you out of what comes out of a book. You see this book? Everybody look at this book. You see it, Mark? The African Origin of Civilization. See this book? Very, very important. Very, very important. I read it a lot. And I get to comprehend the information of how they derived this information. And this information is what they continue to keep from you. They don't want you to know that Columbus came here and meet Africans, Aboriginal dark skinned people. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that the Arawaks looks like me. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that Columbus went to the island of Hispaniola. Him and his brother killed over 60 million people. That was the largest habitation. That's the largest habitation in Central America. The island of Hispaniola, which is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic. They don't want you to know that. They ain't going to teach you history in school. 60 million people on one island. You imagine half the island, which is Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Haiti got over 40 million people living there on that island. As a matter of fact, it's the largest habitation, is the largest inhabitants of living souls in the Central America. Exclude Panama and Jamaica and what's the other country? Trinidad, not in Trinidad. Trinidad 1 point something million people. But I'm saying to you, look at the habitation of people. People came there and meet people looking like me. They call them Swati people. They were there before ships began to sail from Europe. They were the ones who were sailing to Central, North, and South America, even to Europe. There is enough truth that is there for us to comprehend. We were there. We were here first before anybody. Our culture was the Constitution. Our words were the laws. And it still is. You now just have to comprehend the etymologies of those words. You realize they stop using certain words like understand. Because to stand under the word is to become ignorant of the fact. To stand over the word. I always wonder why you hear these Rastafarians say, well, I overstand. But no, I overstand what they were saying. To stand over means to acknowledge, to have knowledge thereof, to comprehend thereof. So you cannot be ignorant of the fact to stand over. See, they don't want us to stand over the etymologies of words. They want us to stand under it. So we become more ignorant of the fact. So when we go before the court, the first thing the court says to us, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Of course. So we live by commerce. And if we fail to live by commerce, we go in front of the court. It is commerce we live by. We have to pay for everything that we do. We got to pay to eat, to sleep, to walk, to smile, to do everything, which is commerce. And if we fail to do these things, they take us to court. Commerce is part of the corporation. So I don't want to live by commerce. So I'm out of the corporation because I'm no longer entitled to obey the laws of commerce because I don't want to be living according to that. Commerce is an enslavement system. Everything you have to pay for. The amazing thing? The vegetation that grows thereof out of the ground. Free. Why do I have to pay for it? I have never seen nobody pay money or dig a hole and put money in and said, look, or I'm paying you back for the vegetation that you gave onto me. We came into this world with 3 inalienable rights, and those inalienable rights becomes commerce. The right to life, liberty, and property. And we got to pay for all 3 things. We got to pay to live. We got to pay to be free. We got to pay to have property. And those things are free. When we are born in this earth, we are born free. But look what happens. Even before we are born, we're subject to the system because the system now creates a comprehension from our parents that when we're born now, we got to hand the newborn sibling over to the system via way of birth certificate. So the poor child born into the system now owns the child via way of birth certificate. Instead of natural birth, no, you can't get it at all. That child now becomes commerce, part of the system. That you got to pay now for that child to live. Yes, if you get money, the child can starve, the system takes the child away from you. because the system now saying that you cannot afford the commerce that the child has to grow up in. So you got to pay for everything. That's the fact. Sad to say so, but that's the fact. So that is why I constantly teach that we now, as living souls, melodious beings, we are indigenous. That means we are the first. Commerce is the second or the last. We are above anything that is petty, which is commerce. Commerce is the real freedom, commerce is the real enslaved system. To be free of that system is to accept your indigenous rights. But we don't want to create a system anymore. We some of us are lazy. We don't want to come out of the commerce to create a system of our own free will. We want to depend on others to tell us how we must live. So, commerce teaches us, well, your education is the first thing. They stop edifying you. They now educate you. Because not knowing the definition or the etymology of the word educate, you fall under that system. First thing, to those students who are looking, the only education comes in this commerce activity goes to animals. So if you say I'm educated, that means you're an animal. That's an identification. If you say that you are edified, that means you're not an animal. You're above that position. An animal you can control by education, but a living soul you cannot control because that living soul is edified. So they control you by the education, and in your education status, they now tell you which level that you belong to society. You either belong to the prison system or you belong to the enslaved system. All is the same thing. One just restricts you of your rights more than the other. Then they take that away. Your education process. They take away your edification process by educating you from a child to an adult. Then they go to your consumable process, the food that you eat. They now tell you that you have to eat to survive. You don't have to eat to survive. You have to eat to stay healthy. So they create a chart for you. They say, well, look, you got to eat 3 times a day. So within your mind, you're telling yourself that you're hungry, so you got to eat 3 times a day. But if you check it, you don't have to eat 3 times a day. Not everybody's system is made up the same. You can eat 1 time a day if you want. But it's the type of food that you consume. That is it. They're not telling you that. Then they move from the food to the medication. The things that they give to you now are processed and refined. It's death. Processed medication, processed food, it's chemical. Refined is to take away the richness of the item and give you the refined end product. But we think, oh, refined means a nice thing. Refined sounds nice, but we're not searching or understanding the etymology of the word refined. Hold on. Oh yes, Mr. Haley. Oh yes. Before they had the great earthquake and the continent shift apart, it was one earth, one land space. So that is why when we say, that's why earlier, if you realize, I was talking about two Americas. I was talking about the United States of America and a United States of America. There is the United States, North, South, Central America. And there's no one president. They are presidents of the United States of America. That is why in Los Angeles this year, I think it was last month, you realize Mr. Biden hold the fourth CEO, Central Executive Officer of the Americas. It didn't say the fourth Conference of Presidents. It says Central Executive Officers of the Americas, because that's what those presidents are. They are CEOs of corporations. That is the corporation now that we're all, well, not me, but you're all a part of, because you are citizens of those corporations. Like Guyana, you're citizens of the Corporation of Guyana. So they say it's a citizenship. You're citizens of the US, which is the Corporation of the United States. It's a business. Those countries exist, or those corporations exist via way of commerce. What is commerce? In order for it to develop into commerce, they must have to have citizens, slaves. Well, I'm sorry, some people don't like the word slave. So we call it subjects. That's what they call the citizens of these corporations, subjects or human beings. You realize the United Nations does not cover for the rights of indigenous. They do, but they do not have full coverage, because indigenous person has more rights than the United Nations. So the United Nations has a human rights body, not an indigenous people's body, a human rights body, because subjects of these corporations are called human beings. They don't call you living souls. So you see where we're coming. So people like me now, it's hard for them to shut me up, because no boy, this guy is talking all of this truth out. And not only that, I'm not only talking it out, I'm living it. I'm the living example. I have my proclamation. I've already renounced my Guyanese citizenship. So I'm no longer belonging to the Corporation of Guyana. If you comprehend what I'm saying. I'm outside of Guyana. I'm no longer belonging to the corporation. The thing is that I was telling a friend of mine, he was saying, so you could be deported. And I said, no, I cannot. My lineage is to the land of America. The corporation can be deported because the corporation came via way of a ship from England, Dutch, and France. Because these were the three persons that occupy the Amexium, this part of the Amexium of Atlantis. Because before it became Guyana and British Guyana, that whole corridor, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, was Atlantis. That's why the name is given Atlantic Ocean. These are things they don't teach in school. They may teach it in some sections of education like law. And they may give you parts of it. But they don't teach it. They don't want your eyes to open up. It's like I had to explain to an indigenous, an Amerindian guy. He was talking about the difference of Amerindian and indigenous. So I said to him, what the British did was try to civilize some indigenous communities and then identify them as or Indians, American Indians. The minute the corporation gives you that name, you're no longer indigenous. You're giving up your indigenous rights. So he said, how do I know that? I said, in order to form the boundaries of Guyana, the corporation of Guyana, those indigenous persons had to give up their land rights. You call it abandonment in order to form the boundaries of Guyana, which is the corporation. So that same nonsense is before the ICC, the International Court of Justice. Yes, the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, where they brought the case before the International Court of Justice so Guyana can retain its boundaries and not give it to Venezuela for the ownership of Essequibo. That's the problem. But here was the problem of Venezuela and Guyana. Guyana, the corporation of Guyana, the Aboriginal, the indigenous persons accepted the right to be called Amerindians so the boundaries can be marked to form the corporation of Guyana. Those Aboriginal people who are living in Venezuela have not given up the right to be called indigenous. That's the problem. So by any chance, Venezuela would lose their case because the International Court of Justice would say to them, look, when the British draw the line to form Guyana, it is because these indigenous persons give up their rights to be known and to be seen as indigenous and to be seen as Amerindians that are part of the system. Yours haven't. That's the problem. It's the same thing with Brazil. Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela has the same problem with border issues because why? Its indigenous population refuse the right to be seen as Amerindians or American Indians. They refuse the right. That is why the boundaries and that demarcation becomes a problem unto this day with those three countries, Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela. They still do. They have that problem. Till the people call themselves the indigenous people of the Amazonas. You realize Brazil has two capitals. Brazil has two identification of population. You have the Amazonians and you have the Brasileiros. Brasileiros have the capital do Brasil. Amazonas has the capital do Amazonias. It's the same thing with Colombia. That's why Colombia and Venezuela has the same problem which you call the rebels, the FARC rebels that you call it. They occupy areas that are not what you call are indigenous. The corporations can't run in and those they feel like they got resistance. We don't have resistance because the corporation identify themselves according to boundaries when they talk about indigenous people abandoning their rights to be called indigenous and wanted to be called Amerindians. Suriname, you have the same problem like Brazil and Venezuela and Colombia because Suriname has what you call the Aboriginal indigenous people that are dark like me. You know what they call them? The jokers. They are the Moors over there. They have documentation of treaties. That's why the Surinamese government has a problem in issuing license to persons to go and cut down trees in the forest, and because they have what you call rebellious groups of people. But Guyana doesn't, because Guyana, indigenous people gave up, abandoned their rights to form the demarcation or boundary lines of Guyana. That's the truth. Now, if the indigenous people did not give up their rights and just to be called indigenous, like the Arawaks, like me, who unto this day never give up their rights, they're having problems of forming boundaries around that. In Peru, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil. Brazil only looks like that so big, but Brazil has a lot of indigenous tribes. Plenty. That refuse to be demarcated, refuse to give up their ancestral lineage, which is their land. But nobody doesn't want to comprehend that. Nobody doesn't teach that they had a great earthquake that separated the continents, and the continents was one. That's why the people could have traversed everywhere. Europe, Africa, Asia. Yes. We were known as the Asiatics. You check in every corporated country or corporation you call it, they have indigenous persons that look like us. Yes, they have indigenous persons that look like us. You ever heard about the untouchables in India? You always want to know why they call them the untouchables. It's not to discriminate against them, it's just that they cannot tell them anything. They have indigenous rights. They can live, they can travel, they can do as they please. There's no law telling them what to do. There's no law that binds them to anything. That's their right to live, to exercise their rights, their inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and property. We who are part of that system does not have those rights. Check it. We don't have the rights to life. The corporation controls your rights. They got the police take your life when they feel like, or the system does it. The right to liberty, whenever you speak, they try to control that right because they keep telling you over and over, you're governed by acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. So your liberty is taken from you. Guyana is a simple example. And the right to property, if you ain't got money, you ain't got bargain. You can't live in a fancy house, you can't get chairs, you can't get a bed if you ain't got money. That means property, you don't have no rights over. So everybody running helter skelter. Because you got to go to work, you got to get up every day and go to your job. Definition of job. Check it. You'll be surprised. Open the dictionary, check the definition of job. Check the etymology of the word job. It's a Hebrew word for oppression. You know, every day you go to work, when the month comes and you get paid, becomes an oppressed situation. Can't believe you're drawing such a large amount of money or such kind of money you can do. You become oppressed at the end of the day. It's an oppression. Look, I always want to continue to teach and to lay down the facts as it is. It's something that I want to keep doing all the time. Never want to stop doing. I appreciate the time people take in their busy schedule to sign on, log into the Dr. Matthews-Bey show and hear the truth. To some persons, coming off the political agenda was a bad thing. But the political and politics is a part of the system. Democracy is not a free will. Democracy is a more enslaved will of every country. It depends on who practice democracy in a bad way or in a good way. But there's no such thing as bad and good. Democracy is the worst thing you can live by. Yes, I knew that I used to talk about it a lot because I thought I knew about it. But after start extensive reading and studying and realize that the etymology of it means something that's terrible, I can't teach about it anymore. Democratic countries or corporations such as Guyana, or all of them that signed on to that democratic status of the United Nations, is to practice the counsels of a shadow government that enslaves the people. That's the fact. It doesn't matter which government goes into power. The mere fact is that as long as it's exercising democracy, that's the way it is. I'm telling you that because that's the fact. What Jack Dio and Irfan and all of them are doing, that is practicing democracy. That's the fact. It's not something that I'm running away from. But you need to know the truth. If the people cannot recognize the Constitution, which is them, the Constitution of the Corporate Republic of Guyana says, we the people. It did not say I, Irfan Ali, or I, Bar Jack. It says we the people. That's why in that Constitution there is something that you call the Representation of the People's Act. So if you cannot represent yourself on issues about the corporation that you're asked to be a part of, well, then the executive exercise such powers, which is Irfan, Barrett, Ali, and all of them. The Constitution is the democracy. That is why when they stand up and says one Guyana, they're smiling and you tripping out, they don't understand what they mean. It is you who doesn't understand what they mean. It is you who doesn't comprehend, as a matter of fact, what they mean. They know that you're ignorant of the fact, which you're governed by the color of law. So they utilize the executive powers thereof to oppress you even more. So the more domicile you remain, is the better for them. Now you find that the rat is leading the cat. You ever check it? You got an executive CEO who has no form of edification. The guy is blind, but he thinks because he's CEO, he has powers. Yes. The system tells him that. The democratic system tells him that. And make it more worse, he got a vice president what sits down there, tells himself that he's boss. You know why he tells himself that? Because you, the people, fail to act, which is your democratic rights. The only way democracy or the Constitution can prevail for you, the corporate subjects of Guyana, is by exercising your constitutional rights. Yes, the Constitution of the Corporate Republic of Guyana. Not my Constitution. They can't violate that right. They got a good thing coming for them. Believe me, they don't get part 1. They got part 10. It's coming. And they know it. They've already seen the very first part of it. But such is the life. I am Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey of Dr. Matthews-Bey Show, Voice of the Nation. I'm always pleased to come to sit, to talk, and to comprehend with you on matters of the soul, on matters of rights and justice. I come to you as an Aboriginal indigenous person to the Mexium, which is America, with all the teachings of the nobles and melodious beings, with peace, with friendship, with joy and justice. I say Islam to you, I, self-law, a master. Saying to you, stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, and wear a mask. Don't get the little ones you take into public places. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey saying good night and Cheerios for now. You can still call me on the number 66575. On those who want to find out some more information, and also to those who are still buying the Black Love brand. I'd be very much appreciated. I forgot that part. Black Love brand is to help to progress the Dr. Matthews-Bey show and to keep on the edification process because I need it. I need it. I work nowhere, so you could imagine. I depend upon what these sales bring in so I can continue to progress this edification process on the social media by paying its bills and having it survive the winter. Good night and Cheerios for now.